Hello and welcome to week 4 of our Bible study series on the life of Elisha. This week we're reading a story from 2 Kings chapter 4 verses 8 to 37. Now it's a long story, so settle down. I'm going to read it to you just now. One day Elisha went to Shunem, and a well-to-do woman was there who urged him to stay for a meal. So whenever he passed by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, "I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put in it a bed and a table, a chair and a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes to us." One day, when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, "Call the Shunammite." So he called her, and she stood before him. Elisha said to him, "Tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or commander of the army?" She replied, "I have a home among my own people." "What can be done for her?" Elisha asked. Gehazi said, "She has no son and her husband is old." Then Elisha said, "Call her." So he called her, and she stood in the doorway. "About this time next year," Elisha said, "you will hold a son in your arms." "No, my lord," she objected. "Please, man of God, don't mislead or trick me." But the woman became pregnant, and about that time of year, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. The child grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. He said, My head, my head." His father told a servant, "Carry him to his mother." After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and went out. She called her husband and said, "Please send me one of the servants and a donkey, so I can go to the man of God quickly." "Why go to him today?" he asked. "It's not the new moon or the Sabbath." "That's all right," she said. She saddled the donkey and said to her servant, "Lead on. Don't slow down for me unless I tell you." So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, there's the Shunammite. Run to meet her and ask her, 'Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right?'" "Everything is all right," she said. When she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came over to pull her away, but Elisha said, "Leave her alone. She is in bitter distress. The Lord has hidden it from me, and he has not told me why." "Did I ask you for a son, my lord?" she said. "Didn't I tell you, don't raise my hopes?" Elisha said to Gehazi, "Tuck your cloak into your belt. Take my staff in your hand and run. Don't greet anyone you meet, and if anyone greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face." But the child's mother said, "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." So he got up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to his master and told him, "The boy has not awakened." When Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. Then he got on the bed and lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eye to eye, hands to hands. And as he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. Then Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got onto the bed and stretched out on him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and called the Shunammite. And he did, and she came, and he said, "Take your son." She fell at his feet and bowed to the ground. And then she took her son and went out. For a story read aloud, it seems to have more drama than just when you read the words on the page. Well, a few questions to begin with. What do we know about the woman? Nothing. She belonged to Shunem and was content with that. She seemed to want for nothing. She didn't need a word put in the ear of someone in high places. Does Elisha owe the woman anything? Well, hospitality deserves at least a thank you, and it seems to have been freely given and freely received. Why does God bless the woman? To show that there is power in faith. In faith more than there is power in ritual or in believing you can buy the privilege of going to God. She asked for nothing, and so something was given. The boy becomes ill to show the power of God. That's why the story's kept in the Bible. If the boy had simply grown up and took to working on his father's farm, there would be no story. But in fact, he dies that we might learn that God answers prayers, that God has power over life and death. Why does Elisha not understand what the woman's problem is when he sees her coming? I don't know. No more than I know quite why the boy sneezes 7 times. But even Elisha has to wait on the Spirit of God. For the answer is not always, "I've heard your one and only prayer, and now I will immediately answer it." Sometimes endurance is required, patience and perseverance. Gehazi is instructed to run. And these are parts of the stories I have some trouble with. It appears to be some kind of magical transference. Because the holy man's staff goes, then Gehazi can work the miracle. Sure, God can do as he will, but I've got my doubts about this. And I'm not surprised when nothing happens and Gehazi heads back. Instead, the prayer being uttered by the mourning woman goes with Elisha. Her distress, her hope in Elisha accompanies Elisha on the road. And the performance that Elisha makes, matching his life to the boy's unlife, his seeing eyes to the blind eyes of the dead boy, his mouth open to eat and breathe and speak to the boys closed in rigor. The length of the boy measured for mourning cloth, while Elisha still is tall on his feet and independent. But God answers Elisha's prayers, and life comes back bit by bit. First the warmth comes back, and then the breath. Life is returned, and like we have seen in Elisha, and if you have looked in Elijah's life too, when the miracles are simply worked and no fuss is made when they're complete. Call the woman give her back her son? Is there a story of fanfare or party? Just what we can imagine, the embrace of a mother to her returned son. These stories are a measure of God's power and love that we might learn from them. They are not a promise that every life will be given back. Jesus worked a miracle. Can you see the picture on the stained glass window? Can you work it out? Look at the figure in red, Jesus, how he looks down on a figure who, with his left hand, is pulling cloth away from his face and head, whilst round his waist a cloth is wrapped to his right arm. This is a stained glass window of Lazarus being raised from the dead, and the instruction afterwards being that he needs to be unwrapped and take the cloths away. He doesn't need death clothes, burial wrappings anymore. I'm not going to read the whole of that story out, but you can follow it in John chapter 11 at verse 38. In this last minute or two, let's just recognize that what Jesus does is a little different from Elijah. When Jesus gets to where Lazarus has been buried, too late to heal him from whatever ailment took him, Martha and Mary are beside themselves, perhaps in fury, but certainly in grief. And Jesus goes out to the grave, a tomb, surrounded with a crowd, and also broken-hearted, for two friends who have cared for him, given him hospitality. But there is no fanfare or rigmarole given to the raising of Lazarus. No eye to eye and mouth to mouth. No lying beside, matching death with life. But the Lord of life, our Jesus, stands at a distance and tells others to roll the stone away from the tomb, and just asks, Lazarus, come out. And the power in those words, like the power of our God who made all things, brings Lazarus out. Jesus' faith, answering the unspoken requests of two sisters, demonstrates that he is the Lord of life, as we will discover he is the Lord of death when he defeats it and is resurrected. We are not people who rely on spells and incantations. We talk to our Saviour and our Father. It is not a measure of the prayers that earn results. It is the faith behind them that does that. Thank you for taking part and enjoying this short presentation of Elisha's life. The Bible study is live on Thursday nights, and you can get in touch with me if you'd like to know more.